Kenworth has just revealed its new C580, which is the next generation of the C500. Why don't we have a look in this video, go through and see what they did on this thing. I'm gonna tell you why I'm so excited about this truck. It's because our family has a huge history of Kenworths. I've personally owned a lot of Kenworths, all the way from a 1962 up to a 3-4-year-old Kenworth at the time. I like them, my family's always owned them. I remember riding in the passenger seat, my uncle showing me how to drive on his Kenworth, riding in the passenger seat with my grandpa as he was going out trucking. We always did the heavier spec work, the logging, the moving, the snow plowing, the low bedding. And the Kenworth C500 was the truck that dominated my childhood. And now it is so nice to see that that is not being discontinued and Kenworth is back with the new C580. I am really excited to see this truck, excited to go through it. So let's take a little walk through and we will show you some of the features. On this truck, one of the most important things on this C500, you'll notice that this frame rail comes all the way out to the very front. This rad is sitting up on top, which means that if you got to attach your winch tractor plow, your toe pins, this is directly anchored to your frame rail. So if your truck's stuck in the mud and you're pulling on this truck, you're not pulling on a lower cast hanger, you're not pulling on any kind of, you are pulling directly on the frame rails of the truck. And then above it, now you have this higher radiator. And in here, we've got like about a 1,700 square inch radiator. It's big cooling power, because you got to remember, this truck is designed to pull heavy loads off-road, so you're not going to be going 100 kilometers an hour, you're not going to be flying highway speeds, and you're going to be pulling all that weight up a hill generating big heat. So you're going to need a big radiator. For low speed heavy haul, you need to get as much airflow through that coolant as you possibly can, which brings us to the other side of this truck here. Now we're coming on this. This is a butterfly hood. So you'll notice here that hood panel lifts up and you can remove these side panels. You take these side panels off, you leave them in the shop in the summertime. That way when you're running, all the heat from that engine, it can vent out the side of this engine base. You'll notice a lot of C500s, they've all got their panels, because when you're on a truck like, say this one over here, this is the T880. The T880 is all one big molded piece. Well, now you are trapping all that heat in there, so you need to find a way. This right here is just your air intake. It's located there. Here, if you're pulling, say 160,000 pounds and you're moving 20 kilometers, climbing a 12% grade in 30, 40 degree weather, that's 100 degree Fahrenheit for the Americans, that's the best way to get that heat out of that engine bay. More air you can get out of your engine, more air you're gonna get through the radiator. And then in the wintertime, you just put your panels back in, put an insulated panel, help trap that heat in. It works both ways. Back to the next thing on there, we have external Donaldson air breathers. These are your Donaldson ERP air breathers. They've been kind of the standard on trucks for the last 50 years. Nice thing about this, once again, you're moving lower speed, you're moving those air breathers out. Now you're not sucking in, your air breather's not under the hood in that heat. You've moved your air breathers out where it's a little bit cooler air, a little bit better combustion. Plus, when you're in the dust, you've got 2 of these canisters, 1 on each side. So as you're going, you're driving off-road, you're kicking up a lot of dust. The more air filter you have, the longer you're gonna be able to get out of those air filters. With, of course, they've got the external dust drain on it, which I really like. It makes it really easy. You give that a little pinch, and you drain your dust out at the end of the day. This is the way you wanna go. Plus, they sound beautiful because you can hear these 2 cans sucking in air from the cab, which I think sounds awesome. On top of here, we've got the steel fenders. Once again, this truck is going to be beaten up in off-road environments. You want a fender that's going to survive those off-road environments. It's not fiberglass, it's a solid piece of steel. You can stand on it, you can wipe your windows. Mechanics got a little spot to sit, although mechanics are, I've heard some mechanics like the butterfly hood, I like some like the other one they can flip open and work on. Personally, I like the toughness of this butterfly hood. Noticing on here, we got the old steel power steering reservoir. Like, this is the power steering reservoir that I've got on my 1970s Kenworth. It's classic, it's steel, it's not a little plastic thing, it's right there, it's easy to check. Going back, you have this structure. Now, there is one of the things, it's not like the old C500s LWs where it is hard mounted and built into the cab. Because this is a highway truck cab, they need a way to mount this. The cab is going to be moving on air ride suspension, so it's moving independently of this hood. So they put in this structure here, and that supports the butterfly hood, and then the rad is tied back to the frame rail. They used to tie the rad in to the support structure. So your rad would be tied into your support structure. Now they've tied it in there. That's a little bit different on this one. Coming back this way, this is one of those things I don't like. Every hauler I've talked to here doesn't like these mirrors. Did talk to the folks at Kenworth. They say they are coming out with some different options here hopefully soon. But you can't adjust these mirrors. They don't slide out, and they are fixed right down the side of the sleeper. Like, they're fixed at a position for a highway truck. Like, these mirrors would be great if you were pulling a dry van, but that's not what a C500 does. In a logging situation, this thing's got 10.6, 12.6 wide bunks. You're hauling 14-foot shacks, so you've got a shack that's sticking out to about here. That'd be your 14 wide shack, but your mirror's sitting there. So if I've got a 10.6 logging bunk on here, all of that is doing is looking at my logging bunk. That's 8.6, 10.6 here. Mirror does not look past your side of your truck. Makes them useless. The old style square tubing ones, you could get mirror extensions and you could bring your mirror all the way out to here. I've seen C500s with mirrors out to 12 foot wide. I'm not sure why they did that on this. They know this truck is going to be oversized, hauling oversized loads, but I'm sure they're working on that. Coming down to here, one of the really, really nice things about a C500 is the increased ride height. So it is a highway truck cab, but they have lifted it up well above the other cab. If you have a look, I'm going to show you the T880 again. We have a look at the T880. Here's the ride height on this one. This is what you find on a highway truck. Coming over to the Kenworth C580, look at this ride height. That is a huge difference. I could actually take off my hat. I can crawl in here and I can work. Sorry, that was probably a money shot. I can crawl under here and absolutely work on this thing. Plus, not only is it good for working, but once again, for that heat dissipation, any of that heat from your transmission, engine, all that heat is coming out of the side. It's not gonna be heating up the floor as well, because any guy that's done heavy haul, when they're pulling heavy grades, you can feel that transmission starts getting hot. Getting that heat out of there makes it a little bit more comfortable for the driver, a little bit less wear and tear on the components, and easier to access when things do break. So I really like the increased ride height on this thing. I don't like this, but every truck has this. Coming to the back of the cab on the suspension on the Unibuilt cab and sleeper, one of the things I like is that the airbags are mounted external to the frame rails, whereas some of the other trucks here, they've got their airbags right there. It's a fulcrum point. The farther out you move your airbags, the less side-to-side sway you have in the cab. And if you're off-road and you're on angles and bouncing, I don't want my cab doing this. Moving those airbags out stabilizes it. The more you bring it in, the more it can pivot. So mounting these external, really nice. That's going to provide a lot more comfort off-road. Apparently this truck is going for a winch tractor rig up, so that's why we've got this nice long deck space. We've got all our stuff here to, eventually they'll put that into the winch rig up. Coming onto the suspension here, they went with the ADZ suspension, which I was expecting to see like an AD 390, not an ADZ. This is a little bit more lighter duty than the AD suspension, but the ADZ is still a very, very capable suspension. I'm just not as big of a fan of the wishbone style. Apparently New Way has made some changes to that. They're not blowing out the bushings as often as they used to be. It's been upgraded. I still prefer the traditional AD with the two different transverse and lateral torque rods. Back here into the frame rails, it is a double framed, which looks like a 3/8 and a 1/4 inch frame rail, double framed. I would prefer a 1/2 inch frame. I see that International does that. I like to do that. I just find you get a little bit of rust jacking in there. You can get a little bit of corrosion. I think they were getting this thing ready for the show last minute, but everything's painted on this truck. It looks really good, but they just spray painted over everything. Also a little bit slightly disappointed to see the plastic push connect fittings. I personally think on a Kenworth C500, when you do have the premium price tag that comes with the C500, that these would be actual. I get it, everyone used the plastic lines, but it'd be nicer to see the compression fittings. We have some compression fittings there, but on the airbags and other things, we just have push fittings, so can't win them all. One thing I don't like, and I know Every engineer I've talked to said that you do not need to connect your other stack, that it does not make a difference to have the other stack connected. You get just as much good output on this one, and it's actually better for the emission system to not connect that exhaust and just have one stack. But it looks so much better in the wintertime when you got that early frosty morning, minus 20 below. This truck's coming down the road and you see all of that nice smoke and steam coming out of both pipes. You get the sound, it sounds uniform, it sounds better. There's no engineering reason to connect them. It feels weird to have a fake stack. Into the cab here on the new C580, we have this big LCD display. They've gotten rid of the gauge packages on here. It used to be that, I love the old W900 cab, that 1.9 meter cab. It had a full gauge package with a full set of gauges running through here. I don't know if that's an option or not. I'd love to see that as an option. Like, I'd rather move this down there, have full gauges through here. I'm not a big fan of the LCD screen personally myself, but that's personal preference. Coming in here, only thing my biggest disappointment on this thing, trailer brakes are right on here, and if you let it go, it comes up. Well, running a logging truck, there'd be times, it used to be you'd have your trailer brake there, and you'd come down, you'd want to let your brakes drag. So you'd pull this down, and you let it go, and it stays at about a 15, 20 pound application just to hold it down there. Because if I got to shift and use my trailer brakes at the same time, I've got one hand on my shifter, I got one hand here, what hand is holding the wheel? So I've got to somehow come around the corner, hold it with my knee, downshift, hold the trailer brake. Like, it's on a winch tractor, you have the same things. A lot of times when you're winching, you want to let your trailer brakes drag as you're winching, which means that I'm winching here, I've got one hand on the wheel, and I'm also trying to drag my trailer brakes. I need to be able to set it. I know why they did it. It's because guys would pull them down and they would forget to push them up all the way, or more of the highway guys too. They wanted the drivers to let those go. The big mega carriers are like, just let it, and when you're not using your trailer brakes, you don't want it anymore. I also find it was way more useful to find air leaks in the trailer, because I could pull this down and I could go walk around my trailer and I could find my air leak in my trailer from my foot brake. You could do that as honestly part of your pre-trip in the morning. You'd have your trailer brakes released there, you pull on there, do I have any leaks on my service brake? No. Now you need to get somebody else to walk around the trailer, because every time you let it go, the parking brake releases. Like, I get you're trying to save one problem of people forgetting it down, but you're creating other problems. On a C500, that heavy truck, I say give the driver the choice on whether he wants those trailer brakes applied or not. Other thing, engine brake. This right here, this is your shifter, forward, neutral, reverse, and then you move this up. Off on the engine brake, low, medium, high. Every single truck I've ever bought in my life, I hop in, I turn the engine brake on, I turn it to high, and I leave it there and I never turn it off. I don't know what driver is going down the road selecting their engine brake. I just want max engine brake. Unless I'm on a slippery condition, if I'm in slippery conditions, then maybe I'll turn it down to 2 or 1. But I don't need to play with this. Put the trailer brake here, put the engine brake back here. Don't change that, it works. It's worked for the last 50, 60 years. One of the other things, air switches. These are electric over air switches, which I have dealt with before, and I found that they froze up because your valves are actually outside of the cab. When you used to have all your air in the cab would get warm, it would defrost the valves, and you'd be good to go. By the time you got to where you needed your lockers and you got to the off-road from the shop, they would all be warmed up, they'd be defrosted. Now you go to use your inner axles and your lockers, well, they're still outside at minus 40 below, they got a little bit of moisture, they froze up, and they don't work. It's very frustrating. It's not something that I think needs to be on the CAN bus, that this could just be a mechanical control. I was really hoping that in the C500, being that little bit of a heavier spec off-road, they would have went back to that. I wish they did. But those are my only real criticisms. Other than that, talk to a few people that have ran these cabs. Apparently they're very comfortable, they're very quiet, they're wide, which I prefer the narrower cab. I find it harder to reach my passenger seat. I used to put my lunch on the passenger seat and I could reach over and grab it. Now it's a little bit harder, and I find that the visibility of the wider cab, I don't like the visibility as much as the narrower, skinnier cab, but it's more roomier so you can hop into the sleeper and kind of move around in here. Could have added like 2 inches for me. It's a comfy sleeper. I like the Unibuilt sleeper. I like that you don't have that little doghouse pass-through thing. Oh, these are buttons now. These used to be cool switches. I like that when you could click, 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 click. But at least they did keep them in the classic Kenworth spot. The Kenworth has always had their headlight switches as a pack of 4. My 1969 Kenworth. Actually, even Carl, that 1962, all had 4 switches right at the very top of the dash. Is where Kenworth has always put them. They're not the toggle switches anymore that you can flick, but at least they've kept them in the same spot as every other Kenworth. All right, it is really nice to see Kenworth come back into that C5 model. Well, the C500 is still my favorite truck. I'm still really impressed with the C580. It is still a purpose-built truck. It's got the frame rails to the front. It's got all the heavier duty mounts, heavier duty cab. It's lifted, it's got the butterfly hood. It's got a lot of those features that those heavy haulers need, because Kenworth left the C500. They discontinued it. Western Star dropped the 6900 XD. They've gotten rid of most manufacturers because you don't build a lot of these things. Yeah, those T680s, you could sell 20, 30,000 of those every single year. You could sell 100,000 Freightliner Cascadias, and the big companies buy those up, put them on a dry van. These are specialized. Every one is going to be a little different. They're all going to be a little unique. They might have twin steer, tandem steer, tri-drive, walking beam. They've got so many different options that you could spec out on that truck that everyone is different. It is a nightmare to build for that because it's not high volume. And I've seen this scary thing where they wanted to focus on high volume and to just build as many of the common trucks as they can. And then you see guys exiting. It's really, really nice to see that Kenworth is back in the C500 market with the C580, fulfilling that demand that is definitely out there.